Hello, amazing parents and caretakers, and welcome to the Pumped Up Parenting Podcast. I'm your family empowerment coach, Celia Kibler. I'm a mom of a blended family of 5 kids. I'm a grandma of 9 kids, an author, a teacher, a speaker, and a consultant with over 40 years of training and real-life parenting experience. I'm here to offer you practical, doable tips, strategies, and techniques that will pump up your parenting skills and create peace, love, and laughter throughout your family. In addition, I'll be interviewing some great humans that are on a mission to make your life a better, happier, and healthier life. So let's not waste any time and get started with the next episode of the Pumped Up Parenting Podcast. Thanks for listening. Welcome, Ajoa.
Hi, Celia.
I think you're coming into the screen. There you are. Now we see you.
All right. Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you fine, gratefully, even though we couldn't hear the video. Hopefully we can get that fixed. I'm not sure what's going on there, but more important, we hear you.
Awesome.
How are you this morning?
I am doing well. I've been listening in on these first speakers, and I'm just honored to share this space with people that are connected to you. You are phenomenal. You're doing wonderful, wonderful things. And each talk, I'm just, oh my gosh, it's getting better and it's getting better. And then I'm like, oh, it's my turn. I got to keep up the momentum.
And you will, and thank you. I appreciate it. And I'm honored to have you on our summit as well. We met not that long ago, and I knew as soon as I met you, I was like, oh, you have to be a part of this.
Thank you. I know I'm hearing people say they've known you for years and years. I'm like, I met her 5 years ago, but you have a contagious spirit of just wanting to make humans better and just keep the ripple effect of kindness and compassion going. So anybody that crosses paths with you, I mean, I can't say no. I couldn't say no. I had to.
I'm glad you did. And thank you so much for that kindness. So are we ready to talk about your talk, Honoring Stillness? And you know what? I love that title. I love that, Honoring Stillness. I love it. And as we watch the videos with no sound, we're kind of honoring our own stillness.
We are.
I mean, it's not the end of the world that there's no sound. So do you have slides or
So I'm going to share my screen.
Okay.
I'm sure that everybody can see.
Make sure we don't need help. And then I will leave you to your resources.
Okay.
There we go. Now you can present.
Good? Pretty good?
Perfect.
Okay. And please forgive me. I cannot see the questions as I can't see. If anything comes up in the chat, I may not be able to see it. So.
Oh, I'll mention them. Don't worry.
Okay. Thank you.
We got your back.
Thank you. Right. So good morning, everyone. My name is Ajoa Ayesu, and Celia, it's totally okay. I like that my name is a conversation starter. I tell people it looks harder than it sounds. But my name is Ajoa Ayesu. As Celia mentioned, I am a full spectrum doula located in Jacksonville, Florida. And I am going to start by saying, I'm just going to apologize. What do the young kids say? Sorry, not sorry. I am so passionate about the work that I do in birth work, particularly in postpartum. That is so near and dear to my heart. So I had such a hard time narrowing this down to 30 minutes. So if I get to talking, as people in the South say, please just forgive me. But this is something that I could go on and on about it. So the topic I chose was honoring stillness, and it's a gentle approach to finding balance in postpartum. So here we go. And again, my name is Ajoa. I am a doula. A lot of people don't know exactly what a doula does. I start by saying I do not deliver babies. I coach you through the birthing process. I like to consider myself a birth cheerleader, if you will. I'm an emotional support, not just for the mom, but also for families. And included in that, I am a wellness advocate because outside of birth, we have to talk about thriving in postpartum, right? And that is part of your mental recovery, physical recovery, and we'll get more into that a little bit later. And so what I do is I would like to provide practical strategies for everyday use in the fourth trimester. There's a lot that happens, there's a lot going on, which we will talk about. And so when you get to me, if we've gone through labor and delivery together, by the time you get to me, now we talk about how to navigate this wild time that is the fourth trimester, which is postpartum. And why? And the why for me is because tapping into that mindfulness, that wellness side of you, it unlocks potential, not just within yourself, but for your family, for your baby, for raising your children, relationship building, all of that. So we start with looking at the fourth trimester, beginning of postpartum, and then we kind of see where we can lay the foundation as things move further along and you develop your family and your child grows up. So, not everybody knows what postpartum is, right? We hear this term thrown around postpartum, postpartum. So, I wanted to give a little bit of a recap as to what postpartum is. So, it's known as the fourth trimester. So, for those of you that don't know, pregnancy lasts 3 trimesters, and then the fourth one, which is after baby arrives, is the postpartum period. And it begins immediately after birth. My philosophy is that postpartum doesn't really have an end date. So clinically, doctors and medical providers will say that the fourth trimester is 3 months after you deliver, because every trimester is about 3 months. That is what is known on the clinical side. For me, what I emphasize to my clients is that it's ongoing. Everybody's journey looks a little bit different. For some, it might be the first 3 months. I have actually been in rooms with women who are in their 50s and 60s, and something pops up from postpartum. It's a feeling that they identify. That's still postpartum. It's still postpartum. Though they are not going through the physical changes of postpartum, it's still after. It's just the after part of having children, right? It's kind of like you never stop being a parent. It just keeps going. So typically in the US, women may be expected to return to work as early as 6 weeks. For those of you that do not know, when you have a baby, you have the immediate checkup, then there's a 6 week checkup, then there's, 4 months and the 6 months and all that stuff. But generally, daycares, for example, they take infants as young as 6 weeks. That is another discussion to be had. Again, that's related to everything that happens in the postpartum period. For other cultures, the fourth trimester is very, very respected and it's nurtured, and it's this very, very sacred time where moms they're embraced by the community members, mothers, aunties, grandmas, and they're just loving on her and her new baby and just nurturing her while she's in this period of healing. Postpartum is a very, very critical transformative time period because of all the changes that can happen in such a short amount of time, right? So typically it's within 3 months. And 3 months can sound like, okay, you got a little bit of time to go on, but in that 3 months for mom and baby, there's so much that's happening. There are growth spurts, there are dietary changes, there's still the hormonal fluctuation. Physically, mom is still going through periods of healing where there's still bleeding occurring. There's a lot that's happening in those 3 months. There's family changes, relationship changes, just so many things. And so that is just kind of a quick recap of the fourth trimester. So we are talking about stillness, calm, quiet in postpartum. So here we have, what does that look like? So immediately from the hospital, let's just say in the hospital or birthing center or wherever mom delivers, right? Everything is very slow. You notice when you're around a new baby, you're kind of delicate in your movements. Everything's quieter, everything is softer. Now, when mom gets home, she might not be moving as fast. Whether it's a C-section or vaginal delivery, she's moving a lot slower. When you do bottle feeding, whether it's breast milk or formula, you still have to put the bottle together and the water. There's so many processes, right? You're not going to the refrigerator and just kind of getting something for your newborn to eat. There's a process to it. Everything has more steps than it did before. There's, baby rocking. I always joke about tiptoeing. It doesn't matter where a baby is. We're always just like, you don't want to wake the baby. So you're tiptoeing. All your movements, everything you're doing takes more time. There are missed phone calls. You have messages that go unanswered. You have unfinished meals. How many times have you heard parents say, well, it would be nice to eat with, two hands, like normal again, right? You're kind of doing things a lot slower. I have had postpartum clients where I show up and I help support them in their day to day after they have their baby. But one of the things I say is, hey, let me help you finish your meal because you might not even finish a full plate of your lunch, dinner. If you have lunch or dinner, everything is kind of in this slow moving, like time continuum. So on the other end of it, what does it feel like for moms, dads, family members in the household in that time? It can feel pretty boring. So in this particular talk, we're talking about mom. It's boring. You have a baby, you're happy to have baby home. It's exciting. I went to an event some last year, and one of the speakers was describing the event of birth as a big production. It's a big production. Everybody's excited. Everybody's gearing up. You got the baby showers. Now you have gender reveals, all of that stuff. And then there's a grand finale, which is the birth. And then postpartum is the lights are down, the seats have emptied, it's quiet. It's just you. So it's boring. It seems like it's endless. You're just in this loop of feeding, changing, sleeping, birth. It's just ongoing, and it's very very slow. It can be uncomfortable. The pace is slowed down. This is not what you're used to, so it's uncomfortable. It can feel empty because before you had the baby shower, you had the gender reveal. You had, is the baby here? Is the baby here? Oh my gosh, it's almost time. Baby's on its way. We're so excited. We can't wait to meet the baby. And then the baby's here. That's great. And then that's it. It can feel foreign. This is new territory for a new mother. This is the first time she's going through this. I tell people there are so many baby books out there. There are plenty of resources, books, videos. But there isn't one that has been released specifically for your journey. You can't go and say, oh, this is exactly what's going to happen. This is how it's going to play out. And it's confusing. When you're confused, think about in your day to day, confuses you. How easy is it to kind of keep going in the same trend that you were going in? When you're confused, you kind of stop and you think for a minute and go, wait, 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 what happened there? Let me go back and review. So you have to stop for a moment and process. So what is at stake? And I worded it to say what's at stake because it's in maternal health in 2025. There is a lot that's at stake if we don't take a moment to honor the stillness. One of the things that's, again, it's at the core of why I do what I do is perinatal mood disorders, particularly postpartum depression and anxiety. The statistics are alarming, they're disheartening, and it really sheds light on what's really going on. Again, like I said, I heard a speaker describe it as a production, a big show, pomp and circumstance, all the bells and whistles. And to go from that grandiose spotlight moment to the stillness of postpartum, it's an adjustment. And for some women, it's a terrifying adjustment. It has a life sentence attached to it. So 1 in 8 women who have recently given birth will experience postpartum depression. So April is also the second week of April is also Black Maternal Health Week. That is something I'm participating in. I'll talk a little bit more about that later. 1 in 8 women who have recently given birth will experience postpartum depression. That statistics is 3 to 4 times higher for Black women. 3 to 4 times higher. 1 in 8 is already high enough. 3 to 4 times higher in African American women. 50% of moms are not properly diagnosed by a professional. That's a lot. That is a lot. So, how many women are walking around with these mood disorders that are going undiagnosed? 5% of those women who reported it have high levels of postpartum depression symptoms. So, again, that's 5% of women who were properly diagnosed, who spoke up about it. And then the cases can lead to postpartum psychosis. Some years ago, so I am currently in Jacksonville. Some years ago, not too far from me in Volusia County, there was a woman, a mother who drove her van into the beach, drove it into the ocean. And everybody was so confused. Why would somebody do that? There was also another story, I believe it was up in New York. A mother harmed her children. She harmed her children terribly, terribly, neglected them initially and then harmed them. Postpartum depression, when it goes undiagnosed, it eventually, especially if there are underlying mental health problems, lead to postpartum psychosis. So for these mothers, this stillness becomes a new world full of trauma, fear, paranoia, heightened sense of just impending doom, right? And so when we don't take a look at what's going on in that stillness, these are the type of things that can happen. Now, let's flip it. Why do we need the stillness? Why do we need the stillness in postpartum? It's going to happen regardless, right? Remember, you go through the cycle of feeding, changing, sleeping. It's just all this stuff that's happening in a loop. You can't move as fast. You have to rest. You can't just pick up and go. You have at least 6 weeks where you can't really take your baby to daycare. You have to have the checkup at 6 weeks. So for let's just say if we all agreed, right, that for 6 weeks, you're just kind of taking care of the baby. We're just focusing on making sure baby's okay. Why do we need that? So these are four reasons, four different things. There's plenty more, but I picked the top four is physical restoration and healing. So April is also Cesarean Awareness Month. Right? I like to call them belly births. Some people refer to them as belly births. C-sections are major surgery. You cannot just bounce back up and get back to what you were doing. You have to take a moment to pause, allow your body to heal, right? And you have to go get checked by the doctor, but your skin is not just going to turn around and heal in a couple of days. You physically have to stop and be still and sit. Stillness is important to bond with your baby. If we're moving and moving and moving and moving, how can we notice the changes that are happening with your baby? How do you even notice um, if something is going on, if something's wrong, milestones over the period of time in the newborn phase? You notice their features are changing. You notice they start to smile. Are they following you with your eyes? If you're not still, how are you able to notice those transitions and changes happening? Mental health. You have to be still for your mental health. In the previous slide, we talked about postpartum depression and anxiety. If you are not still, how do you know if you have those symptoms? A lot of times, postpartum is a period of exhaustion and frustration. Now, there are some cases where moms will say, I'm just tired. I just feel like sleeping. True, you do have to rest because you're in postpartum, you're taking care of a baby. But sometimes there's a borderline where the rest is more like the beginnings of a depressed state. Now, I do want to also mention too, there is a time frame after delivery, the first 2 weeks, which is known as the baby blues. That is when hormones are up and down all over the place, and that's normal. Beyond that, now we're kind of looking at, okay, something else is going on here. Stillness is important to connect with yourself. If you're not still, how do you know what's going on within you? Feel a little off. Another thing I want to talk about is with Black maternal health, postpartum implications pop up in postpartum. Whether it's a vaginal delivery or C-section delivery, you can have postpartum preeclampsia. That's a condition where your blood pressure completely spikes. If you are not in tune with what's going on, you won't be able to catch that. And that is another one of the leading causes of, unfortunately, deaths in mothers in the postpartum phase when it's like suddenly everything was fine and then it wasn't. One of the things I do want to touch on too is there is a guilt that's associated with taking a pause and being still. Why? Because of all these different factors. Moms want to try to catch up. There's a phrase after you have a baby. It's trending with on social media, and it's the snapback, trying to catch up physically, trying to get your body back before you had a baby. There is no way. You carried somebody in your womb for 9 months. You cannot expect the body to snap back. Society's expectations of sitting. A new mom that's up and at it and moving around. A lot of times you hear, oh my gosh, look at her. She's back on her feet, back to her old self. Look at her go. Oh my gosh, you're just right. You just fell back into it. So when a mom is sitting or resting, there's a level of guilt that's associated with that. Well, I didn't really do much today. Well, the baby's just sleeping, so I guess I could do something to fill that time. Some of my postpartum clients will say, I started cleaning, I started doing stuff, and I got myself moving again for what? I like to say, what did you need to do? What was important in this moment? Feeling unproductive. The days are long, you're in a continuum of time, right? So you feel like, well, I'm not really doing much. You're healing, you're resting. So, really quickly, so studies have shown that the brain is continuously going through a lot of processes. A lot of the previous speakers have talked about the pathways in our brain and what's happening. And it's interesting how all of this is connected to what's happening in here in the big control set. So, all of the ways that we are talking about finding calm is related to what's going on psychologically. And I think that's just brilliant that everybody's touched on it. So you've heard it, and I'll go ahead and add my spiel too, is the brain is a command center. It tells you responsibilities, choices, processing. We've talked about fight or flight, everything that's going on in our brains constantly. So I want to show you the differences in what's going on with pregnancy and during pregnancy and 2 years postpartum. Because remember, my philosophy is that postpartum can actually carry on for up to 3 years. So have you heard, I'm sure some of you have heard of the term pregnancy brain, right? You forget things, you can't finish sentences. Well, there is an actual reason for that because your brain is transforming and you're losing certain parts that are connected to your social and emotional functionings in your brain, right? Now, does that always come back? I have 4 children, and each time I had a baby, the pregnancy brain was real. It was real. So you see that it's going through these changes during pregnancy and 2 years postpartum, 2 whole years, right? But remember, I said women can go back to work after 6 weeks. Now imagine if you're in a very demanding job processing, looking at data, 9 to 5, and you go from having a baby to postpartum, then you're expected to be back at work. You're not functioning at the same level that you were before. So where are your stress levels? How are you functioning emotionally? So now we want to shift to what if stillness was active, right? Instead of stillness being something that we are disconnected from with new mothers, instead of saying, well, I'm just sitting still, I'm bored. What if it was active? And now this is where, on the other side of what I do, I talk about mindfulness. Mindfulness is intentionally being still, intentionally embracing the calm, and using those moments where you feel like you're just kind of existing, right? You're becoming more present. And I like this because it talks about what mindfulness is. Mindfulness being the practice of being fully present and aware of your thoughts, feelings, and surroundings without judgment. That is very, very, very important here, without judgment. Remember, we talked about the mom guilt. You're just sitting there. One of the things, and I I like to share this because this is part of my own journey, but I am I went through a phase of being a stay-at-home mom. Technically, I guess I'm still a stay-at-home mom, work from home mom, but I homeschool my children. It was never my intention to homeschool my children. I did not know I was going to be a stay-at-home mother, but my husband and I made the decision because I was working in the daycare industry, but I just noticed, being away from your children for a certain period of time it was a lot. And with my third, I had a 5-year-old and then a 9-month-old, and then I was about to have a baby, and I was like, I'll just, apart from the cost of daycare, said I'll stay home with the baby. And I did have a sense of guilt that was associated with that because stay-at-home moms, they are given a bad rep. They say, well, you just sit at home all day. You're just at home. And that's not always the case. I lived in my car. We were everywhere at playgrounds, all these things that were stimulating their minds and their brains and their development. But there is a sense of guilt was I felt like I was unproductive because I wasn't out working the 9 to 5 and running around and doing this and just doing what everybody else was doing. But mindfulness is this wonderful practice of taking a moment to pause and engage not only with people around you, but with yourself, right? And taking a look at where you are and what you're doing and noticing things that you probably wouldn't notice in any other setting, in any other mindset. And to carry on here, it says cultivating mindfulness, you can manage stress, improve concentration, and make more intentional choices in your daily life. So this is where I like to introduce the concept of mindfulness to my postpartum clients. And we start that in pregnancy because I want to help them design that for later on after baby arrives at home. But I tell them that there's so many things that you can do to practice mindfulness and being intentional in your day to day. So here's just a collage I put together of being mindfulness, where mom might think she's not doing much, right? You're actually being very intentional and you're embracing the more calm and quiet moment. Here you have mom just laying there with the baby asleep. She doesn't have to, it's true, rest when the baby's resting, but also embrace the quiet time of just watching your baby be still. All of that is another way of improving mom's mental health in postpartum to combat depression, anxiety, psychosis. You're just enjoying the still quiet moments with your baby. Here's mom playing with her baby. We have lost the concept of play sometimes. And sometimes people look at babies and like, well, they're not doing much, but they know you're around and they sense your energy and your calmness. It's that balance of the energy back and forth. Listening to music, that is a form of mindfulness. So I always connect mindfulness with meditation. Listening to music is meditation. Some people go, well, I don't know how to meditate. Just be still. Being still. Listen to a song that you enjoy. You don't have to do anything, just simply being present. Journaling. I encourage postpartum moms to journal. Another thing we go into a lot is the birthing experience. That birth is beautiful. Birth is also trauma. It's suppressed. Journaling is a way of being mindful and processing that experience in postpartum. Writing it down, reliving it, revisiting it, having those intentional moments of walking through your birth journey. Sitting and looking at the ocean, that's intentional. And again, all of this is to find balance. Balance is a feeling derived from being whole and complete. When you have a baby, I tell people, so I have 4 children. Every time a woman has a child, you become a new mother, a new version of yourself. Just because by baby number 3, I've had 2 kids, but that doesn't mean I know exactly what I'm doing. Now I'm a new mother of 3. When I had 4, I'm a new mother of 4. I have to relearn things about myself and reconnect with myself. Everything becomes out of balance for a while, but I gotta do a little bit of work to get myself in balance. It's where intentional focusing and mindfulness comes in. Balancing a way forward. What does balance look like in every day? You plan, discuss, you schedule. Taking care of your body. Mindfulness. Looking at your mental health. So this is all positive stuff. However, what does that look like in postpartum? Are you planning? Are you scheduling with the new baby, right? Do you say, hey, baby, we're going to leave for my appointment at 12:15. We're going to get there by 12:45. We're just going to hop in the car. That's not quite what it looks like. Taking care of yourself. You might not have the energy to stand on your feet and, cook something and eat a nutritious meal, but you can start implementing snacks or reaching out to providers, different ideas, getting support around you. Processing, emote, communicate, resting. So what I did was I took this and I condensed it for a mom. A new mom in postpartum. What does finding the calm look like? Just being flexible, right? Babies have their own agenda. Be flexible. Listen to your body. Be aware of the different changes. Anything that feels off, be in tune with it. Communicate in safe spaces, emotional management. Find people that you trust, that you can confide in and say, hey, I'm having a hard day. And on the other side of it, if somebody approaches you, just have compassion. Practicing mindfulness. Again, it's not some thing that you have to prepare for or be, an expert in. Just take quiet moments intentionally. And here I have just a little bit of a slide to show what the benefits of mindfulness are. Connecting with your baby, intentional parenting practices. I wholeheartedly believe that having a better start with mindfulness and embracing the stillness and being intentional postpartum, it leads to more intentional parenting later on. If you are stuck in a cycle of stress and chaos and exhaustion and frustration, your baby's only going to continue to grow and get older and then be more demanding and then more talkative and then more active and moving. So you have to start implementing ways that you are mindful and intentional before we get to those stages. The toddler stage is very interesting. I have a 2-year old right now. Again, he's the fourth one. I thought I knew what I was doing. I like to think I know what I'm doing. I have degrees, I have certifications, but toddlers are very interesting. They have their own agenda. They are little people navigating a big world, and it's their world, and we just live in it, right? But he's going to continue to get older. So I'm having to adapt different ways that I'm intentional and taking moments of calm after he's had toddler moments and practicing where we can kind of negotiate and meet each other where we need to meet each other for some moments of calm. But I provide those examples for him. Mindfulness supports better family dynamics in postpartum. A lot of relationships are broken up in postpartum. It's unfortunate, but if you're able to take those moments of calm for yourself and regulate yourself, then you're able to be better in terms of navigating uncomfortable, different, evolving, transformative relationships, whether it's friendships, family relationships. And mindfulness also decreases the risk to infants in infancy and early childhood because you're more mindful, you're less angry. There have been instances of mothers losing their temper, and then you have unfortunate stories like shaken baby syndromes, and they just lose their temper. You have all those hormonal imbalances and changes. You just lose your temper, and we go, how could she do that? That's so awful. Well, what was happening? Who checked in on her? What's postpartum like? What was her support system? Um, I told you guys I get really fired up about this, so I'm going to quickly go through the rest of my slides. But I know we had another speaker that talked about breath work. Breath work is important for moms. While babies are crying and losing their, just all kinds of stuff, I tell moms, breathe it out, breathe, engage, and then try to problem solve. Right? That's also part of mindfulness. Even in the moments where nothing is happening that's chaotic, just breathe. Breathe through it. This line, increased oxygen to the brain helps focus and clarity. Taking a moment to breathe, just like somebody mentioned about kids, tell them to breathe. They can think better, they can regulate their emotions. Just breathe. And I like to tell people it starts with 5. All these are just different ways of implementing mindfulness in the day to day and embracing stillness. This can be for mothers and community members who support mothers. Just say, hey, did you read a book today? If you see a new mom, just kind of check in with her. You can take 5 minutes to see how she was doing. Encourage her. She might not encourage herself, but you can encourage her. Take 5 minutes to eat. Stress management exercises. So these are the different ways that, again, you can implement calm and balance in postpartum. And I think I'm approaching the end of my slides. Yes. So thank you very much for listening. I did warn you guys I get passionate about this. So hopefully you enjoyed that. I have a postpartum session coming up. I believe my social media information is it's somewhere. If not, I'll post it in the chat. And these are one of the ways that you can embrace stillness is connecting with people postpartum. So I have another one coming up. And if you'd like to get connected with me, you can scan the QR code for all of my social media stuff, my website, and any information, or if you just like to chat, because I can talk about this stuff all day. So I'm going to stop sharing my
Oh my
screen.
gosh. Thank you so much, Ajoa. It was so much information. Um, and I guess I'll be on screen soon. Here I am. And I don't know if we have questions, but I'm going to talk about some stuff that I wrote
Yeah.
down. So, first of all, when you discuss guilt, it's so true. Mothers feel so guilty about everything. Like, oh, I don't feel like getting up. I mean, the fact that you have a C-section and then you're expected to come home a few days later, live your life, take care of an infant after they've sliced through your body. Like, this isn't like a little laser job or like this is like cut you open, take out your organs and get the baby. Put your organs on a table. A table. Do you think
Mhm.
your organs are upset about that? Yes, they are. And then you
Yep.
have to put them back in. And they're like,
Yep.
ah, I mean,
Yep.
imagine what kind of organs feel that way. Anyway,
Yeah. And
it
I
drives me nuts. But
tell people,
there's also, and I don't know if you mentioned this,
yes.
because I had to step out because I had to go potty. But you know how it is with us women. Um, Societal guilt. Like I talk to parents all the time who don't want to breastfeed. And
Mhm.
or it's just not working for them and they keep trying and they keep trying because they know they should breastfeed, blah, 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 blah. And I said, you know what? There are herds of humans roaming the planet that are very successful that have never been breastfed. And and I always say that your stress is much more dangerous for your child, much more traumatic for your child than anything else. So if
Yes.
you're doing something that will help your stress, you're helping your child.
Yes. Yep. Yep. Any type of steps that you take, you can prevent so many more things that come up down the line. And stress is it's the silent killer, right?
Yes.
It's a silent killer. And they just think, oh, I'm just a little frustrated, but it's like a tumbleweed. It just rolls over and just picks up more stuff that's stressful. So we have to stop it in the moment, examine it, process it, and then find a solution.
Yeah.
And then give yourself grace. Some solutions might work, some might not. But just give yourself grace. I tell the
Yeah.
moms all the time, give yourself grace. It's okay. It is a-okay.
It's hard. It's hard being a mommy and it's hard being a new mommy and a
It
new
is.
daddy. I don't want to like downplay the daddies, but
Yeah.
like my sister-in-law, she would have been in the Guinness World Book of Records for milk production, but they wanted milk production to just one location. She actually had so much milk, she had to donate to 5 different locations. So for whatever reason,
Wow.
they didn't take her. But one of the pieces of advice, because I asked her, I'm like, okay, my beautiful cow sister-in-law, we just called each other little funny names. I wasn't being insulting. I was just being funny. And she said one of the things that she did is like if she was feeling stressed out and maybe she had, the pumps going, whatever, the baby, sleeping, whatever, she said she would watch a comedy. And watching the comedy would relax
Figure
her and she'd laugh because, as we know, and I've said many times in this summit, laughter is the best medicine.
it
And
is.
so if you're feeling stress, moms, take it from my incredible, blessed, booby filled milk production source. Watch a comedy, watch a stand up, watch something that's funny. So you're not like in your head all the time. Relax yourself, go outside. So many things you can do, you know? The other thing I wanted to comment on is how you talked about stay at home moms. And I wrote it in the comments that even a stay at home mom, if you talk to a stay at home mom, they will go, oh, my husband works. I don't. You work
Yes.
more than your husband works.
Yes.
They
They say,
say it all the time.
they say, "Just at home." I'm like, no, you are not just at home. You are on call. You're a nurse. You're a teacher. You're a problem solver, mediator. Oh no, you are not just at home. And again, it's the minimizing. It's the guilt of, well, I'm not bringing in a paycheck, so I'm just at home. And I was like, oh no, 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 no. So, and I was one of those moms. I didn't go to work every day. And so I was like, well, I guess, but then I had to reword that to myself first. I had to empower myself in what I was doing. I said, I'm raising my kids at home. I have my kids home with me, and I'm taking care of them at home. I'm a stay-at-home mother. And just changing the narrative and the wording on that helped me because I felt less guilty about explaining myself or, having this cycle go on in my mind of like, what could I be doing with my day? Am I doing enough? Should I do more? What else can I do? And again, taking stuff on, adding more stress, making me snappy, and it wasn't working. So change the narrative, change the environment, change the mindset,
Right.
and then everything.
It's like, have you ever seen that, they have a couple of them out, like where people come in to apply for a job of mother and they don't know they're
Yeah,
applying and they're like, okay, you
yeah,
have to work 24/7. You never get a vacation. You're never off. You barely get sleep. And it goes on and on. And they're like, what kind of job is that? That sounds
yeah.
terrible.
You might not get paid for this. And they're like, what? Way? Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what.
So it is so much about changing your mindset and, and getting rid, and things can wait, guys. Your house can wait. If you really want to pick up that toy, pick up the toy. But do you need to vacuum at that moment? No.
Not.
You need to mop the kitchen floor? No. And outsource, if you can outsource what you can do. I used to, years ago, I don't have it anymore. Now I have my husband, but I used to have someone come to my house and do laundry. Wasn't that a wonderful thing? Like they would pick up a bag of my laundry when my kids were younger, take it away, do it, and then bring it back the next week and pick up another bag of laundry. This was like a blessing. But now my kids are all grown, so it's just me and my husband. Now he does the laundry. I do the dishes. He does the laundry. He doesn't like dishes. I don't like laundry. And I'm grateful for it. But there are all kinds. There's cleaning service. There's, if you can afford someone that can cook for you. I mean, you can obviously we can't all afford these luxuries. But there are certain things that maybe you can even find balance. You need a cleaning person to come in. Well, let's just have them come in once a month and do a thorough cleaning of my house. I know where I live, that's about $150. So $150, what is there something I can get rid of so I can have that and know that my house is clean? Remember, your sanity matters. I mean, that's what Ajoa spoke about the whole time is that we're crazy after we have kids. But God bless them. They are seriously funny. They're great entertainment their whole entire life. Please take your children, your teenagers as entertainment because it's free and they are.
So true.
Well, Joe, I don't know if we have any other questions other than people said it was a wonderful presentation, which it was. Thank you so much for being here. Joe will be on my podcast. Did we record that yet? I can't remember. No. So we are going to record a podcast coming soon.
Yeah.
But thank you so much. And one more time, mention your website since I know we can't get the QR code. Brilliant with the QR code, very on the screen so that they know how to reach out to you.
Yes. So my website is lotusringppc.com. And on social media, I am Lotus Ring Wellness.
Lotus Ring, RING. I should have that written down somewhere.
Yep. I can also put it in the chat for you.
Oh, yeah. There you go. Put it in the chat, please. And thank you so much for being here. I hope you can stay and listen. And if you can't, you can even come back and listen. We have a great rest of the day lineup and a great day tomorrow. So more calm, share it with your people. And thank you so much. I'm grateful for your talk today.
You.
Bye, honey.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to the Pumped Up Parenting Podcast. If this episode was helpful to you, please share it with a friend and leave us a review that will help others. Wonder why kids don't come with a manual? Well, wonder no more, because I wrote you one, and it's just won a wonderful Mom's Choice Award. Go to celiasbooks.com and buy your copy of Raising Happy Toddlers, as well as my children's books. I appreciate you being part of my mission to help 10 million parents stop yelling at their kids. Please be intentional and hug on those kids of yours. See you at the next episode.